Welcome to Green Building Matters, the podcast that matters for green building professionals. Learn insight in green buildings as we interview today's experts in LEED and WELL. We'll learn from their career paths, war stories, and all things green, because green building matters. And now our host, and yes, he has every LEED and WELL credential. Here's Charlie Cicchetti.
Be sure to check out the Green Building Matters community, where you can have unlimited exam prep for any of the professional credential exams you're tackling next, as well as putting your continuing education on autopilot, saving time with GBES reporting your hours on your behalf. Check it out, gbes.com/join. Now, enjoy this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. I really appreciate you listening every single week, where I get to interview a green building professional somewhere in the world. And today I've got Theresa Lehm. She's a LEED fellow, WELL AP, a lot of credentials after her name, and she's the director of sustainable services at Miron Construction in Wisconsin. Theresa, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Charlie. I am doing well. Thank you for asking. And I really appreciate the time and you inviting me to be a part of your podcast. Thank you.
Amazing company there. And what I've learned about Myron, I know we've done some education work together. You've got a lot of LEED professionals, for example, but I want to talk about you and your journey, because there's some listening right now that are just now getting into this movement. And there's some others that maybe have been doing it a while, but need that spark, need to hear an encouraging story. So take us back, Theresa. Where'd you grow up and where'd you go to school?
I grew up in a small town in northeast Wisconsin called Clintonville, and it's a very small 4,000 person conservative community. I grew up farming with my parents, and obviously between farming and my parents both also working full time, they installed a very strong work ethic in me. Again, growing up in a small conservative town, the focus was always not to be wasteful with anything. And after I graduated from high school there, I went to college at Milwaukee School of Engineering and earned a Bachelor of Science in Construction Management degree. And after living down in Milwaukee, I moved back to northeast Wisconsin to be around my family, and have worked here ever since.
It's so funny, the farming, and you're right, just the resourcefulness and how that really sets you on your way for maybe a green future. But tell us about making that decision for your undergrad engineering with a focus in construction. Like, were you around that also growing up, or how'd you know kind of buildings, engineering, systems, and ultimately construction?
I did. So in full disclosure, my parents built a house when I was 4 years old, and my mom worked nights and my dad worked days. So they would swap us off before my mom went to work, and we would be with my dad building a house all night. So I think construction was just something that fascinated me growing up. And to keep a 4-year-old busy, my dad just gave me nails and a hammer and let me do what I wanted to do. And all throughout, I guess, junior high and high school, I took the engineering classes and the construction classes rather than the home ec classes. And I know that's a little non-traditional, but it's just, I think, part of my DNA. And I've always loved design and construction. Obviously, I'm very passionate about making a difference. And I know that the built environment makes a huge difference on the health and well-being of people.
Absolutely. What a great early apprenticeship there. So did anyone else have some influence? Clearly, your parents there and building that home, but has anyone else maybe opened some doors for you along the way? Anyone you might call a mentor, or just someone you looked up to as you were building your career?
I have had the fortunate opportunity of being around some really incredible design and construction professionals my whole life. And honestly, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time in my career. As I was going to school at MSOE, I was in one of the first graduating classes of their construction management program. And I focused all of my research papers on waste in the construction industry, just because everywhere I looked, I just saw opportunities for improvement. And back when I was in college, back in the day, the U.S. Green Building Council had just formed. And Rick Federici was the CEO and founder of the U.S. Green Building Council. He's a dear friend of mine yet till this day. And he just profoundly impacted my life. I went to one of the very first green builds way back and had the opportunity to listen to him speak and talk about a future where construction could be sustainable, where there didn't have to be landfills of construction waste everywhere. And I was just really inspired. And then again, I just had the right opportunities in the right places. And I worked for a construction company in Wisconsin whose CEO wanted to build a new regional office and asked me about what green building rating systems were out there and if I would recommend one. And LEED had been newly formed. And I said, I think this is going to be the one that's going to take off in the U.S. And fortunately, I was right. And I had done that project. And then that project sparked the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources to build their very first state of Wisconsin's LEED building. And I worked with them and a woman by Jean Rombach-Bartels, who's now a very well-respected person within the DNR. Her and I just hit it off really well, and we created this amazing building. And that kind of was like the spark or the start in Wisconsin. And then the Aldo Leopold Legacy Center was the very first LEED project that was carbon positive. And so Joel Krieger with Kubala Washatko Architects became a really good mentor of mine. And I got to meet Nina Leopold Bradley, who was Aldo Leopold's daughter. And she was just a very great inspiration too. And I've just been in the right places at the right time with the right team members and the right clients. It's just been an amazing journey.
Great folks and early influences there. And just, you're right, as LEED and the USGBC were even growing, you're right there around that. So connect the dots and tell us, how did you get into this role at Miron Construction to be focused on sustainability? Were you project manager for several years, and then you were like the green person, and then you were tapped for this role? Tell us about that.
Okay, so I had my own consulting company back in 2007, and Myron was one of my clients. They had asked me to come in and help them create a sustainable program for them. They wanted to green their business practices, and they wanted to green their construction operations. They were embarking on a journey to recreate their brand. They were expanding their corporate office in MENA, and they wanted that to seek LEED certification. And they wanted to take a leadership position in sustainability. So I consulted with them for a couple months, and then I was asked to come on full time and lead their sustainability program. At the same time, they asked me to also consult on what was the Time Warner Cable building, which would have been the pilot program of LEED projects for Time Warner Cable, which is now Spectrum. So again, I was in the right place at the right time. I came on full time with Myron in 2008. And in the almost 13 years that I've been here, they have grown their LEED, Fitwel, and ParkSmart project portfolio to 64 projects valued just shy of $905 million. So I think that they've made some pretty great strides and have done some amazing things within their construction and business practices as well.
Wow. I know you were guiding a lot of that. And so now with this role, do you present a lot of the different rating systems and options to clients? I mean, give us a peek into those conversations. Or does it happen that a lot of your clients happen to be environmentally focused? How much strong arming these days do you have to do to at least go for a rating system certification?
That really depends. So my role at Myron is kind of trifold, and I'm just going to start off with what our mission statement is. So our mission statement is to lead by example, to demonstrate the benefits of the triple bottom line, which is enhancing the health and well-being of people, minimizing waste, and obviously that goes with that, enhancing anything to do with making a positive difference in the environment, and then, of course, contributing directly to the bottom line in a positive way. And we do that through education throughout our corporate culture, so actually practicing what we preach, and then by offering practical construction solutions, with the key word being practical. So we have 7 offices throughout Wisconsin and Iowa, with our corporate office being in Neenah, and all of our offices that we own and or lease for 10 years or greater are LEED certified. So that gives us the opportunity to showcase off our craftsmanship of construction, because that is what we do. And we're able to demonstrate to our clients how we're able to integrate sustainable solutions into our facilities, as well as talk firsthand about the cost. So the initial capital cost plus the life cycle cost of things. So that's kind of one focus. So it's practicing what we preach. So obviously I'm responsible for sustainability being one of Myron's 6 key core values. And then focusing on making changes within our business practices and our construction operations. So there's that piece of it. There's also the piece of understanding what our clients' sustainable goals are and helping project teams achieve those goals. And that can be anything from energy efficiency to helping find incentives to offset the capital costs of the energy efficient equipment and systems, to helping our clients select strategies to increase the health and well-being of their people. It could be that they want to pursue a third-party green building rating system, and they just don't know what that means. So, for example, I have had clients who wanted to pursue LEED initially because they wanted to reduce energy use and reduce water consumption and things like that. But they also wanted to focus, for example, on their people first culture. And people was the center of their goals. So Fitwel or WELL certification would make a better rating system for them. And so just educating them and explaining that. And then obviously using the LEED requirements to also integrate those into the project so that the clients met all of their sustainable goals. So I do all of that. I actually do the documentation to achieve those third-party green building ratings and certifications for our clients. Myron does have a team of over 150 LEED credentialed professionals on staff. So my job is to provide continuing educational opportunities for them. And of course, that means staying abreast of the latest and greatest third-party green building rating certifications and changes and technologies and materials that are on the market. So I tend to become an educational resource, especially as a WELL and a LEED faculty member. So our design partners and build partners are fully aware of that. And so I do a lot of time educating them as well. So not just Myron people. And then from a community standpoint, because giving back is one of Myron's other core drivers, is spending a lot of time in colleges and universities, community colleges, high schools, helping to create sustainable knowledge programs for students and in general, as well as those that are pursuing interests in the design and construction industry. So.
Well, I know you're a big fan of the credentials, the education, the programs. Tell us about a few of the credentials you have. And, you even mentioned like Park Smart, of course, even before we started our podcast today, Theresa, we talked a little bit about WELL and Fitwel, but can you speak to that? It sounds like it's encouraged within your company, right? So if you want to get some additional letters after your name.
You do. I think that having a credential is a significant thing for other industries or other organizations to have faith and trust that the people within your organization are well educated. And if anything, it gives the people with the credentials the ability to have that conversation just in general about sustainability. And, if they come on to a subject that a client is very particularly interested in, that they need a little bit more knowledge in, they will definitely pull me into the conversation. But I think just having a strong team of that many people demonstrates that our team is knowledgeable. It demonstrates Myron's commitment to sustainability. And quite frankly, in construction, there aren't that many opportunities for continuing education to stay up on the latest and greatest technologies and materials. Unless you have a credential, you don't have a need for that, because you do spend the majority of your time with doing education on safety, such as OSHA 10 and OSHA 30. And obviously safety has to be the number one priority in construction. But having a credential requires your people to pursue continuing education credits outside of safety.
I love it. Okay, thank you for going there. And next, let's look into the crystal ball. Theresa, what should we be reading up on now? What are you excited about that's coming around the corner in this green building and healthy building movement?
Well, I think we can look at current events, right? And the political climate, and that always is a good indicator of what's to come. So if there is such a thing as a silver lining in COVID, it is the fact that health and wellness has come front and center to all organizations, and it impacts everyone, not just a select few. So I think that schools are understanding the importance of proper HVAC systems with a focus on ventilation and filtration systems. That can go on. But I think in this next stimulus bill, you'll see a lot of money, as in billions of dollars, for K through 12 schools and colleges and universities to upgrade their mechanical systems. And that will be something really good, because, and this is kind of going to go on a tangent here, but when you look at what impacts human health, it's your sleep quality and quantity, it's your movement quality and quantity, it's what you eat, what you drink, and what you breathe. And when you look at what you, the last three here, you breathe 26 pounds of air, you drink 4 pounds of liquid, and you eat 2 pounds of food a day. And when you spend 90+% of your time indoors, the indoor air quality and the built environment has a significant impact on human health. So I am really happy to see that there is going to be a new focus on proper ventilation and filtration systems. So I think you're going to see human health and wellness be the forefront, the center of attention, especially as the price of energy is low. And you're going to see a lot of buildings renovating, and you are going to see buildings expand, because you can't have that 4x4 cube anymore and pack 1 million people into a space, a small space anyway. I think you're going to see larger spaces. I do think you might see more people start to work from home, but for organizations that want to maintain relationships and culture, it's going to be critical that there's going to have to be a balance between that work from home and work in the facility. So I do think that you're going to see a lot of healthy building materials come to the surface. People are going to get and understand a little bit more how building materials impact human health from a respiratory standpoint. So there's a huge rise of allergies and asthma, again, as people are spending more time indoors. So you're going to see a focus on healthy building materials. And then, of course, you're going to see a huge focus on renewable energy and carbon neutrality. I believe the new Biden administration is going to sign again, thankfully, with the Paris Accord. You're going to see a federal push for renewable energy. You're going to start to see state. So, for example, Wisconsin's governor has signed an executive order that Wisconsin will be carbon neutral by 2050. We're seeing local municipalities such as Dane County and Eau Claire County and the city of Madison and the city of Eau Claire are all having those same carbon neutral, 100% renewable energy by 2050 goals. And then, of course, you're seeing the big Fortune 500 companies, especially this last quarter, have made huge investments in renewable energy and purchasing clean energy. So I definitely think that is going to become one of the top industry sectors.
Hit on them. I agree with all those. And it's great to see that where you're at also in that region. You know, with the healthy building movement, I love the way you described it, because green buildings, LEED buildings, right? We're saving energy, we're saving water, we're less of an impact on the environment. Maybe we're reducing operating costs for the building owner, operator, but healthy buildings, and the way you described it, it just got personal, right? It affects all of us as we're in all of these buildings. So, well, let's talk a little more about you. A few rapid fire questions here. Theresa, what would you say is your specialty or gift?
My passion for sustainability and my strong desire to make a difference. So anything I do 110%, or I don't do it at all. And when a client says, I want a healthy building for my students, and I want to make that building be a teaching tool so that they are educated and they understand the importance of healthy, high-performing environments. Can you do that? I will 110% make that happen at the level of the student. So, yeah, that's my passion, is making a difference.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, makes sense. Well, let's talk bucket list. While it's a little tough to travel to some exotic destinations right now as we're recording this podcast, Theresa, is there some travel, some adventure? Maybe you want to write a book. What's one or two things on your bucket list?
Well, personally, I want to travel. I want to see the world. I want to see the Maldives before they disappear, and I want to see the Alaskan glaciers before they disappear. I would love to travel Europe and in the UK and other places, Germany, places that are super sustainable that I think we in the United States could learn a lesson or two from. From a professional list, I've been pretty fortunate that over my 20-year career here, I've been able to work on two dream projects, as I would classify them as, which my all-time favorite projects were the Aldo Leopold Legacy Center, which was incredibly cool to be a part of, and the Lake Mills School District. And I would really honestly love one more dream project in my career. By that, I mean having a client that has the faith to do something that's never been done before and have that opportunity to work with the amazing teams that I have had the opportunity to work with in the past to create one more dream project that is truly going to make a difference in the lives of a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you went to those projects, because I usually do ask, and I'll ask it now. Yeah. Are there any really cool accomplishments that you're super proud of? So excited to hear about the travel that you do want to do and you will do. So take us back just a little bit though. What are a couple other accomplishments? You mentioned a couple amazing projects. Anything else looking back you're just really proud of?
It's a good question. My most recent project that I've been pretty proud of is the Oshkosh Corporation Global Headquarters. That was the first project in Wisconsin to achieve a 3-star Fitwel level, award level. And that was just a really exciting thing for me. Oshkosh Corporation does a lot of great things. Their culture is centered on people first. They live, breathe, and die to make a difference as well. And they do that through a lot of different avenues with companies that they own, like Pierce Fire Trucks. And they just do some really great things. And I have never worked on a project where only a third of what I need to work on is actual bricks and sticks or design and construction. But the other 2/3 was about facility management policies and procedures, and then HR policies and procedures. So oftentimes in the world of design and construction, it's like snapshots in time where you design and you build it and you walk away. Well, this time it was really understanding how they were going to operate, maintain that building, and then what benefits they were going to offer their employees. And when you really get to the understanding of how a building has to function to make the purpose of the building happen, and then how they're going to maintain it, you can just design and construct it better from the onset so that they can accomplish those goals. So that was probably my most recent proud accomplishment.
Wow, thank you for taking us. That's very exciting. Let's talk books. Is there a book or two you'd recommend to the group?
So I have read a couple of really great books. I'm just finishing the book Becoming by Michelle Obama, and it really is a great biography. I'm always fascinated by people's stories and their experiences in life. That is what makes them who they are. And so that was a really great book. And if anybody's out there that wants to do that, I would definitely recommend doing the the live book where Mrs. Obama is talking, because her voice is very soothing and you can just hear the passion and inflections in her voice. So that was a really cool book. And then the last sustainability book that I've read was called Green Think, How Profits Can Save the Planet by Rick Fedrizzi. And obviously, you all know that I am a big fan of Rick. And it is a great practical book that talks about how buildings can be sustainable, how they can be practical, and how being sustainable can positively impact the bottom line. And I think that there's just sometimes a perception out there that sustainability has to cost more. People don't know what they don't know. So if you can have an open mind about that and you're willing to educate people, I think you'll get a lot farther in life. And another thing is I wish someone would have told me a lot sooner that life is all about relationships and it's about networking. And as I've told you a couple of stories here, I was always in the right place at the right time. And I had created some amazing relationships in my career, and I would not be where I am in my life, and especially not in my career, unless I had been on project teams. And my project team members have become my friends, and I rely on them incredibly a lot. And so, a project is not successful unless the entire team is successful. And so I guess it goes back to the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So again, just be a team player, make sure that you appreciate everybody equally on your teams, always remain grounded and rooted, no matter how successful you are. And I guess I was once told that a pat on the back or your shoulder is only 2 feet away from a kick in the pants or above your butt. So you always have to remember to remain humble and kind, and people don't know what they don't know, and education is key.
Good nuggets in there. That must be a good Midwestern saying. I love it. And you're right. It's tough hearing that when you're maybe younger. It is who you know, but then you just, like you said, be intentional. Put yourself out there. Put yourself in a position to be lucky for that great relationship. But it is about relationships, and it does become who you know there. So, well, in closing, let's say there's someone listening right now, Theresa, and they're getting inspired by your story. Do you have any words of encouragement for them if they're jumping into the green building movement right now?
Well, engage people who are the experts. Get out there on LinkedIn and social media and start to build those relationships. Read books that are going to give you a different perspective on life. Like I said, Green Think's a great book. Learn about people, learn about rating systems, just learn about case studies. There's so many great organizations out there, like the U.S. Green Building Council, like IWBI and WELL, or the Center for Active Design with Fitwel. And every single one of those rating systems have amazing resources on them. They have case studies. They have free educational resources. And, especially when I look at my mentors wanted the best for me and for the future of people. And that's what I want for people too. So I guess reach out to anyone, reach out to me. I'm happy to pay it forward. So
it's amazing. Yeah. Well, we'll put a link to your LinkedIn. Everyone connect here with Theresa. We'll put a link in the podcast show notes for the books that were recommended. And just for everybody, this has been Theresa Lehm. Theresa, thanks for your time today. This was fantastic.
Charlie, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I just want to say thank you to our loyal listeners. We actually are celebrating over 1 year here on the Green Building Matters podcast. Me and the entire team were stoked and just so glad you continue to listen every Wednesday morning to a new interview with a green building professional here in this industry, or just some pro tips that we want to make sure that you are getting straight from us, straight to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. At GBES.com, our mission is to advance the green building movement through best-in-class education and encouragement. Remember, you can go to GBES.com/podcast for any notes and links that we mentioned in today's episode. And you can actually see the other episodes that have already been recorded with our amazing guests. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Tell your colleagues. And if you really enjoyed it, leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on next week's episode.